Do you ever think about the most memorable hunts you've ever been on? The most exciting turkey hunts, the ones that stick out in your mind that you love the most? Chances are it's when things didn't completely go as planned. That's the hunt that we're getting ready to show you. Is definitely one of my favorite hunts of the year and probably one of my favorite hunts of all time. This hunt starts out before daylight. I'm by myself on a specific piece of property, and then the hunt ends up on a completely different piece of property, hunting with good buddy Austin Musselman, and we work our butt off for this bird. That is my favorite way of turkey hunting, is run and gun style, either having no expectations, work your tail off, and then in the end, you get the prize. It's very difficult to tell that story. Yeah, we could wrap up in a 3-minute little package of highlights of calling, bird gobbles, we go set up, shoot the bird, but that's not how the story played out. That's not what makes this hunt so special to Austin and I on why we loved it so much. We loved it because the hunt was hard. It was a lot of walking and calling and a lot of doubt, thinking we weren't going to even either hear a bird or even see a bird. But then on the other hand, you all don't want to see 2 hours, 3 hours of walking through the woods just calling. Austin and I, we decided to put this hunt together in a little bit different way. We reduce it down to the major talking points, and then Austin and I, we narrate the hunt. We talk about navigating the landscape. We talk about calling techniques, setup, kind of what's running through our mind on whether we think we're going to hear anything or why we're not hearing anything. This is all the stuff that runs through your head when you're turkey hunting. If you love run and gun style turkey hunting, you'll probably like this video. If you're looking for turkey hunting tips, you'll love this video. If you just love watching highlights and fast-paced action kills, this video is probably not for you, which is fine. This is a different style video. We think you'll like it. This hunt, this is the first day that we actually had sunshine. That's why we decided to start walking, and we were determined to walk and call until we could find a bird because the conditions were so perfect. It was a warm day, no wind, and it was just a great day to be out in the woods. So check this hunt out. I really hope you like it. I hope you had a great spring, and thanks for watching. I don't know if y'all would be able to hear the audio, but there's quite a few turkeys gobbling around me, but there's nothing close. Basically where I'm at is a 35-acre piece of property that just goes straight up this ridge, and I'm up here on this flat. So you can't move anywhere. You can't, I can't make a move on a bird. It's strictly calling the birds to me. In the years past, I've killed, I think, 2 birds off this property. And this is the first year I've heard this many birds gobbling. Normally you hear 3 birds, and then opening morning you hear 3 shots. But what I think that this spot's going to be this year is first light, you can forget about it. They're too far away, there's too much going on. But up in the morning around maybe 10 o'clock, 10, 11 o'clock, it's kind of like an oak flat. It's kind of shaded, open woods. I think those birds might make their way in this direction. But we'll see. Basically all I'm doing this morning is just doing real soft light calls. Anything that's within hearing distance will just know that I'm here. So can you hear this behind me? I mean, they are going crazy. So I had that hen circle up from behind me. But right now, all gobbling has stopped. And I expect it to probably be that way for the next 45 minutes to an hour. So I just got a text from Austin. I'm going to meet him at the hunting barn in about an hour. And we're going to run and gun. So it's a beautiful day. It's warm, not much wind. I got a feeling we can get on 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock gobbler. So I've got 3% of battery left. So I'd hate for something to happen and camera die. So I'm going to go get a new battery and meet up with Austin.
All right. Yeah, this is classic late day run and gun hunt. I don't even know what time it was. It have to have been 11 maybe.
I think I sent you a text, said we'll meet at the barn at 10, and we got to the spot at about 11. So midday, 100%.
And it was what, about 5 days in the season, and the first sunny day we had this cold front come through, so we had a lot of cloud and rain and just cold weather. So the sun came out, and we thought this was it. Yeah, and it wasn't that windy. I remember when we went out, we were glassing across some fields, and you could see the heat coming off. It was getting up in the 70s, and we knew that they had to have been in the field that morning and probably just making their way in the timber. So
yeah,
we decided to kind of work the edge all the way around this big point.
You can't ask for prettier hardwoods.
Oh, it was great. The strategy was to burn shoe leather. Until we had one answer, right?
Get past this gully here. Yeah. And then it's a big flat that goes for a long time. If there is a bird over there, we're going to get hung up by that gully. So let's get on the other side of it.
This is classic run and gun. Literally grab your gun and a call. No decoys, no gear, just grab your walking boots and take off and look for a hot gobbler.
Mm-hmm. And once you get a bird to answer you at 11 o'clock, it's game on.
That's where we had that set up on that deer and drake.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, the drought, everything gets water out of here.
Y'all need to stand up in that. Is that where we do the stand?
There's a double stand up here.
I noticed, you and Todd, this is a time of year, too, you're pointing out the spring there that it's just, draws all type of wildlife, too. It's always running water. You kind of use this as a time of year to almost pre-scout for deer, don't you?
Sure. A lot of these areas, apart from turkey season or shed hunting, we don't go in. So you're kind of, you're making mental notes, not only turkey hunting, but for deer season.
And there's a deer there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we walked up on a couple bedding bucks here or does. And yeah, I ran out into the woods so fast with you, I didn't even grab my vest. Hopefully it wouldn't have to sit too long.
I think the hardest part about midday run and gun is, everyone loves that magical time in the morning when the birds are gobbling on their own. And then there's that lull where they kind of move off with the hens, they stop gobbling. And it can be challenging because you got high sun, it's really getting warm, and it's just that mental, I don't want to use the word mental toughness, but just that determination that they will gobble if you get, if you find the right bird, they will gobble.
Yeah, a lot of times they're not answering you because they're still with the hens and they're strutting. But if you get in that little cone or the circle close enough to them, even if they have hens, they can't help but to answer sometimes.
It's the first sunny day we've had.
We're just not in their back pocket yet.
I think you got to be in their cone. You got to be in their circle, and they'll answer.
This time of year, though, it's just, even if you're not hearing gobblers, just walking in the woods, the fresh spring woods is, it's gorgeous.
Well, and too, we were looking, I remember this day for morels. I think our eyes were looking ahead and looking for, turkeys, but we were also looking on the ground for a morel.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned a good point. Either A, you're hunting public ground and you look at OnX maps, or, being a landowner and just knowing your property. you make a great point. We're not just randomly calling. We're calling across each ditch to where if a bird does gobble, we're trying to minimize that, the obstacles that bird has to come to us.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I kind of learned that grouse hunting. I mean, when you're walking through the woods grouse hunting and you stop and a bird might flush, you want to stop somewhere where you can swing and actually shoot it. Same with turkeys. I mean, you want to stop in a place where you can really kill one and call. You don't want to call every random spot. Plus, we were navigating the terrain, so, there were logs and valleys and creeks that we were crossing, so every new setup where we decided to call was a new flat or a new spot that we felt like we could actually kill one.
Just want to call on each of these flats, I don't want to get stuck and have them across a gully, you know what I mean? We're going to find them. They could be over on the hillsides, on the benches too. But it's not too late in the morning. I think they shouldn't be too far in the woods.
I think we finally get an answer, don't we? But it's like a mile away.
Yeah, we had one answer that I think, and that's the other thing is, you were running a friction call, I'd run a diaphragm, and it was just giving those two different sounds, two different pitches, and sometimes those birds there's a certain pitch or sound that they like better than the other. And I remember one time I grabbed the friction call, and before I started my series, I did the slightest purr, and that bird gobbled. It sounded like a mile away. 100% coincidence. There was no way that bird answered that call.
It was off the property, across a valley.
That one just gobbled again.
You did?
The far one, yeah.
Try the mouth calling.
We have done, some run and gun hunts to where you call, you walk, you call, and then you walk up on gobblers that were, less than 100 yards that did not gobble. I think when you do encounter that, that's a totally different situation. But we hadn't encountered that, until that happens, because when that does happen, it's obvious birds aren't gobbling. These birds are wanting to gobble, and we just haven't gotten in their bubble yet.
Yeah, yeah.
Sound up higher down low.
It sounded like he was a little higher. I wonder what the maximum distance is you can actually hear one.
I don't know. With all the guns you and I have shot, it's amazing we hear anything.
I can barely. I'm good to hear you talk.
I can't hear my wife so well.
We were just trying to go around this edge of this huge open field and point and just kind of call down each little valley and kind of work some different areas.
I think it's, where a lot of guys, and I'm guilty of it as well, because even, a lot of times I don't even pick up the camera to hit record because you're like, well, we just called 20 times. Why is the 21st time going to make a difference? And it can. Like, you never know. You could be an hour and a half, 2 hours into your walk, and that last time is when they answer. I mean, look at the scratchings. And it's hard to believe that you're walking through that much habitat, that many ridges, calling to that many different ridges, not hearing a bird. You get the mindset, there are no turkeys or they're not gobbling.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, you start thinking, where are the turkeys? They're not here. But we had, we were looking down at fresh scratchings here. We knew they had been there that morning. And, I think there were birds there that were in earshot that just weren't gobbling. But you just have to find the right one that's lonely and wanting to talk. I mean, it's like a deer, trying to call a deer that's, blow a grunt call to a buck and he's got a doe with him. Well, he's not going to fire off when he's got a doe, But if he's by himself and in the right mood and you call that call, he's going to come right in.
And a lot of times this style of calling, when you're doing that really aggressive cutting, you might get that one shot gobble out of him, that courtesy gobble, and then he may never gobble again.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, if you get him to fire off and he knows that you're a really hot, excited hen, which happened here just shortly. They get fired up, and there's nothing that'll stop them from coming to you.
Yeah, I think this point we were pretty wore out.
We were wore out, talking about maybe hitting another property, going somewhere else,
going to the truck.
Yep.
And it's like that one last cast when you're fishing. Let's go this next flat. Let's go this next ridge, and one more call. And we probably said that already a few times here.
Yeah. I mean, we're 2 hours into our walk here.
Mm-hmm.
So now we've already heard the bird. Because, again, I wasn't recording when we did that one call because you think it's like, oh, we're not going to hear anything, but he is right over that ridge.
Mm-hmm. And we knew we had to get somewhat closer, I mean, he was still way off, but we had to cross this ditch here because how many times have you seen a bird hang up on a ditch like that?
Mm-hmm.
Big ravine and a waterfall there.
Oh, gotcha.
I think he's on the other. He sounded like a good distance still, right?
He's not terribly far, but that time when we were walking, I mean, he was...
Yeah, maybe we'll get up to the top of this.
So right here is where every turkey, I don't care how many years you got under your belt, this is where you question every move. It's like, where do you set up? How much further do you go? Do you set high? Do you set low? Is it too open?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How far is he? Are we going to run the risk of getting busted if we top that ridge? Another thing is, not only trying to figure out that spot high low, when the sun's out like this, it's looking for shadows, where you're not stuck out in the sun, finding a tree that's as wide as your shoulders set up on, you and your camera guy and your buddy. And I think we came to the spot right here because it had a lot of shadows.
So he probably won't cross that way. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, I think he's going to come up. That's what I'm trying to get. This is that point where we need him to gobble just one more time to get an idea of where he was at, and we were actually getting ready to call right here. That's where he gobbled on his own, and we knew that
he was coming.
We couldn't go any further.
Yeah, a lot of times too, you set up and he's he's already answered you, and you call and you get no answer. That's often when the bird's coming.
Yeah. Yep. That's the thing about, running gunning is when you call, you've given your position away, and that bird could be coming your direction and you not know it. Where when you can get him to gobble without you calling is so much better.
Yeah, when you got a bird answering, every once in a while, and there's one close, and you give a call, you're better off to sit there and wait, even if he's not answering, because he might be coming silent. You know, that a lot of guys they don't hear that response and they get nervous, so they think, oh, I got to move again, I got to call again. You know, so, you know, kind of a rule of thumb is to always sit and wait a little bit after you call.
Just sound like over in here. Either in the valley or up on the other side. I think he's in the valley.
This is where it's deceiving, because that bird, the direction that he's gobbling, I mean, it sounds like he's in a completely different spot. Mm-hmm. Because of the way that ridge lays in those woods, it fills the woods, and it's really hard to pinpoint his exact location.
Yeah, I mean, we were thinking it was going to come straight up to us, but, you know, finally he gobbles, and you could tell he was moving left to right.
Right there, yep.
Yep. So then I had to reposition my body to kind of anticipate the next move.
He's on our side, isn't he?
Turkey hunters that are used to hunting, you know, ridges like this, that's that classic, it's beautiful wide open woods, but at the same time, that bird can see a long ways. Mm-hmm. He can see there's no hen, he can see you move.
Yeah.
And it can be extremely difficult to get a good shot on a wise bird. These are the moments right here that turkey hunters live for. Mm-hmm. Is it going to happen or is it not going to happen?
Right. Is he going to walk the other way gobbling, or is he going to pop up, or am I going to move right at the wrong time?
What do you think? Should break some leaves, maybe.
We've turkey hunted together quite a bit now, and it's, you know, I think a lot of guys that do hunt together, through trial and error, you learn communication. You know, you can read body language, but we've kind of established a communication system that don't move means
don't move.
Don't move.
Yeah.
Or, you know, if you do spot a bird, you know, the barrel's 12 o'clock, and then you go off of that as far as location, because, again, it happens so many times. One guy can see the bird, the other guy can't.
He's not across our feet.
And two, you know, I'd seen one of your videos earlier that you were telling people that you can get away with a lot more talking than you think, but the actual movement is the biggest problem.
Right.
I mean, whispering, even lightly talking back and forth, doesn't seem to alarm them, but it's that slight movement these birds pick up on.
Turkey is almost on everything's menu in the woods. You know, you think through a 24-hour period, how many times does a turkey get scared from coyotes and hawks and predators, bobcats? They're used to being scared, and they're used to picking out that movement, and that's their defense system, is that movement. They're not the smartest birds. They're just so good at being scared of everything.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that head is just like a periscope in a submarine. You know, it pops up over these hills that it could be just 2 inches in their eyeball, and we don't see it, but they're looking at you.
Right.
Really, you know, too, a lot of guys, too, I don't think position their body right. They don't scoot far enough down. They don't get their knees far enough up. I learned the hard way that, you know, really to get your knees way up, scoot way down, you can rest your gun up on your knee, and you're so much more steady, and you're not moving. You know, holding your gun up freehand a long time just gets tiring.
Right.
I think a lot of guys do that. When the bird finally comes in, they're shaking all over the place.
I think that's actually an excellent point, that, you know, when that bird shows itself, the only movement you should have to make is pull that trigger. I've been on a lot of hunts with guys, and they don't anticipate when that bird shows itself what movements are they going to have to make to get that barrel on that bird. And you really, the only way you learn that is through trial and error. You're going to spook a number of turkeys to realize what you can get away with and what you can't get away with. And in this situation right here, you know, our eyes are fatigued just glancing from tree to tree, trying to anticipate where that bird's going to show itself.
It's amazing, too, hearing him strut. You know, sometimes you don't hear the gobble, but you're just straining, too, with your ears to hear that. You know, it sounds like a car taking off. Boom. You know, you might hear that little click. And it's just something that you can kind of hear as turkey hunters. You start putting together that's a noise that can help you kill a bird and give off his location.
He's come a long way already.
We got eyes on him now. There he is, right there on the right side of the screen.
See the top of his tail fan. This bird was moving left to right, really, you know. Kind of rule of thumb, I've always believed is kind of you'd rather be above him than below him. I mean, it's harder to call a turkey downhill. But this bird was just traversing, really. I think it was kind of an old logging road or a bench. And he was just kind of following that path.
Yep. You mentioned, you know, your body position earlier. That's something else you always want to think about as a right-handed shooter. You want to position yourself because as this bird continued to move from left to right, he's getting into a position where it'd be harder for a right-handed shooter to continue to track him.
Yeah, you start turning, you start pulling the gun off your face. The
Yep.
next thing you know, you're in a really awkward position.
Yep. This right here is where it tears me up the most, is when they get behind a tree and you lose visual of them, because all you can imagine is them just walking straight away. You feel like they could vanish in thin air.
Or the same vein, they could be walking straight at you, and next thing you know, he's 10 yards popping around that, looking at you.
And actually, I'll lose him here. I still think he's behind that big tree right there with those two smaller ones, and he's actually already moved to the right.
Yeah, I think you can kind of see him there.
Yep, there he is, to the right.
Yep. You know, and this was a lone Tom. I mean, he had no hens. He was a 2-year-old. I mean, he was very vocal.
And that's the other thing, is this bird was as vocal as he was. He's a lone Tom, but he's still not just marching up the hill reckless abandon. He wants the hens to come to him.
Right. I mean, he was looking around. Look at him. He's looking kind of to feed. It was almost like he was looking up in trees, too, for predators.
Right there.
I mean, just think how quickly they're looking around at all the things. What in the world is this bird doing? Oh, that's beautiful.
Yep. This is where he starts moving to the right again, and it's like, it's time. Again, it runs through your mind like, should we have already shot? You know, you're trying to calculate distance. How much can you get away with? How much closer is he going to come? Right here, I really started getting nervous.
Yeah, I thought he was going to continue on that path, and at at that point too, I think my body was pretty contorted to try to even make the shot. Boom.
I was leaning up against you,
Yeah.
using you as support.
Yeah, I think that shook the camera a little bit.
So, that's another reason why, we shoot the shells we do. You spend the extra money for the tungsten super shot for cases like this, when you do have to make that longer shot. We love crushing them at 15 yards, but this bird was a poke, and I don't think he would have come much closer.
Yeah, I mean, I've only been shooting this tungsten last couple years, and I think all the birds I've been shooting have been close, and this was the first one that really had some distance to him. It's pretty impressive.
Oh, wow. Oh, man. I love that. I love the afternoon run and gun thing, man. It's just the strategy, having them gobble closer and closer. That was a good 50-yard shot or so.
Yeah.
That apex, I wouldn't have done it if I didn't have these 3.5. Everybody's telling me that, you can reach out there with them.
That's when, that's one of those situations where you want them to get as close as you can, but this bird, I don't think it's coming. These are open woods.
He was being cautious.
He was.
And when he looked, he's got this nice little path, this old logging road he could have kept going. That was so fun. I mean, if you get him to answer this time of day,
That's all we needed was one within, a couple hundred yards.
Yeah, when he kept gobbling on his own, I was like, this bird's. And then he crossed and he was just coming. I mean, he was on a mission.